This is Moray, the Inca agricultural laboratory situated over 3,000 meters in altitude. As you can see, all these concentric circles, one level after the other. Different terraces has different temperature, hence that they use to grow different crops. In fact, I'm not only here for the site, I'm also here for a restaurant, which is one of the best in Peru, and is situated right next to Moray.
The wind is so fierce that it completely ruined my hairstyle. Moray, Secret Valley, the Incas. Where do I start? For those who have been to Peru or know something about South American history, you probably have heard of the Inca Empire. Despite it belongs to the so-called New World and is often overlooked by people, the Inca Empire is indeed one of the greatest empires in South America and even in human history. In fact, Inca is a name coined by the Spaniard, since Inca is the title of the ruling class or the ruling families, and that's what the Spaniards used to refer to the empire that eventually conquered, and we roll with the name. However, in their own language, Quechua or Runasimi, the name of the empire is called Tawantinsuyu, meaning four quarters. The empire controlled a region so vast that it is the largest empire ever in the Western Hemisphere, north all the way to the entire region of Ecuador and south to Santiago of Chile and northwest of Argentina. To put that in perspective, it is as if the region from St. Petersburg to Cairo all falls under the control of the same regime. It exceeded the area of the Ottoman Empire at its prime, and was the biggest empire in the world at the time. The empire spanned across several latitudes with different climate zones, covering altitudes ranging from seaside to highland. The logistics involved in managing such empire is hard to fathom, given the fact that they were able to achieve all this in an inhospitable extreme terrain, without wheel, horse, iron, currency, and even a written language, all features associated with civilization as we know it. Tawantinsuyu has splendid architecture of massive scale, such as this fort, or this temple, or these terraces, or this extensive road and canal system, or this purpose-unknown massive structure. They were built with impressive precision that without any mortar or adhesive, the boulders fit together perfectly such that you can't stuck a sheet of paper in, like this 12-inch stone, or this piece that's carved out of a single rock. Its capital city, Cusco, or the conqueror Francisco Pizarro, of being so beautiful that it will be remarkable even in Spain. Aside from the architecture, the Incas were also agricultural masters. They built massive terraces serving as agricultural fields, with varying degrees of temperatures at different heights to plant different crops. Moray in the beginning is one of them. Some of them were so vast that they spanned the entire mountain, leaving you utterly impressed. Tawantinsuyu stood proudly as one of the great civilizations in the American continent, until the arrival of the Spaniard and the subsequent conquering. Its king, captured and slain. Its people, subjugated. Its resources, plundered. Its cities, ravaged. Its culture and much of its legacy, destroyed. Coricancha, the most secret temple of the Incas covered with gold, now stripped bare. Sacsayhuaman, the magnificent fortress and ceremonial center, dismantled and destroyed. Quipu, the mnemonic device used for record-keeping, its method of interpretation now lost, along with many other sites dotted in the Secret Valley, abandoned and function unknown, leaving people wonder its former glory. The once greatest empire is no more. However, all is not lost. Although hundreds of years after being conquered by the Spaniard, some of their legacy passed on. Their language, Quechua, survived today and still being spoken by millions of people. Its crop, the potato, spread to the other side of the world and feed billions of people. Its secret site, Machu Picchu, rediscovered, is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site receiving flows of tourists. Its most important festival, Inti Raymi, still being celebrated every year. With all these mentioned, you might wonder, what kind of food they had? Is there any culinary aspect that survived the Spanish conquest? The good news is yes, and that not only they survived, they intermingled with the Spanish cuisine and thrived. Although you can still find some culinary legacy that existed way before the Spanish arrival and survived today. One of them is potato. Naturally, you already know this, as Andean region is the birthplace of potato. Another is quinoa, so nutritious that it became a trend in the Western society. Some lesser known ones are the cute alpacas, I mean this one, and cute guinea pig aka cuy, and some even lesser known ones such as this chocolate, oversized corn native to the Andes, used in many native dishes such as this chucchucara. It's a cute name. Other lesser-known ones include this chicha de jora, an alcoholic drink from fermenting maize, consumed during religious ceremonies, or this chirimoya, aka custard apple, a fruit that has sweet, creamy flesh and tasted like ice cream. My favorite fruit. There are so much more than what I can enumerate in this video. All these are the collective cultural heritage of the Andean people and those that came before it. But what if we take it further than this? What if there is a place that utilizes some of the lesser-known ancient culinary heritage but interprets it in a very unique fashion, such that it rivals some of the most avant-garde Michelin restaurants? This is what brings me to Moray, to find a restaurant that does just that. Moray is an agricultural laboratory located in the Centro Valley at over 3,500 meters in altitude. By the way, Moray is the name of one species of potato in Quechua language, according to my Quechua-speaking driver. But we're not here just for that. In its vicinity, there is a recently established restaurant called Mio. The restaurant highlights ancestral cuisine, and the food are unfamiliar to most. The kitchen's focus turns toward the surrounding Andean landscape and the techniques of the past. The mastermind behind it is Virgilio Martinez, featured in Chef's Table documentary by Netflix. He's known for his use of applying modern cooking techniques to indigenous Peruvian ingredients. His flagship Lima restaurant, Centro, took on the 6th place of the world's 50 best list of 2019 and landed him in the international spotlight. Mio is his latest brainchild. Mio has a menu inspired by the altitude at which the ingredients grow. In this case, it's specifically focused on what can grow at the towering height of its own setting, 3,500 meters above sea level. This is not just farm to table. This goes way beyond that, deep into the unknown in an extreme way. With the introduction away, next thing is, how do we get there? Virgilio Martinez knows this restaurant isn't for everyone. It's a journey to get to Mio. In fact, its location is so remote that the logistic involved in getting there is daunting for most people. Let's say, for example, you're from China and you want to get there after hearing it from self-proclaimed foodie expert Fufski. How? First, there's no direct flight between China and Peru, so you're gonna have to start from a major city in China and transfer either via Europe or US to Lima, the capital of Peru. Then from Lima, you take a flight to Cusco, the capital of the once Inca Empire. And then you give yourself a few days to climb into the high altitude of 3,400 meters. Now, you're about 18,000 kilometers away from where you started. Once you get acclimatized, it's time to head to the Centro Valley where many of the Inca ruins dotted throughout. No, there's no public transportation because Moray is an ancient ruin in the middle of nowhere, so you need to arrange a private car to get you there. It's about an hour's drive from Cusco. And no, the driver most likely won't speak English, so be resourceful with your communication skill. Last but not least, you need to get your reservation. And finally, you're ready for the pivotal moment. An unforgettable meal at Mio Centro. From the outside, the restaurant outlook had a modern take on traditional Inca houses. Once entered, I was greeted by a courtyard surrounded on all sides with a small garden in the middle. This place just exuded the sense of serenity and tranquility. I was given a tour of this place. It had different sections dedicated to different functions of the restaurant. Or should I say, rather than a restaurant, it was more of a lab. Every possible ingredients from the nature are foraged here, being experimented and displayed. The research lab really had a lot of interesting stuff, and I was there to see them all. From tasting the Indian mint fresh out of the garden, to browsing the collections of different fermentation being experimented here, to going over different plant species, different ingredients I had no idea of their existence, and of course, tasting some authentic chocolate. The fermentation experiment was particularly interesting, involving ingredients and methods unknown to me before, like this root macerated in cañazo raíces, and traditional Andean drink, giving it a syrupy smell, or these tiny fish in Titicaca Lake near Puno, which is at around 4,000 meters above sea level. You could immediately smell the umami and saltiness. The botanical lab had all species of plants and herbs on display, most of which I have never heard of, such as this gota that looked like tiny melon, used for its medicinal properties to treat rashes, by burning it, cutting it open, and rubbing it against the skin. You probably also noticed that everything was hung upside down. This was to prevent the nutrient from getting lost. That's some ancient Indian wisdom here. In the lab space next to it, they had an impressive display of different ingredient stores nearby, such as different varieties of corn, different fava beans, different types of quinoa, different tubers, different potatoes, dehydrated potatoes that look like rocks, edible clay. Yes, you can eat this clay, literally. A piece of slab used for construction, but apparently you can also break it into small pieces and infuse with water. Algae that only grow on high altitude. Potato that look like an alien spaceship. Flame potato that's thickly a tuber. Tomato that grows on tree. There was even a map/illustration showing all the locations of the ingredients being sourced from. And of course, we can't miss the chocolate. We were presented with the cacao fruit in its raw form, and the entire chocolate making process consisting of a series of procedures including fermentation, drying, roasting, peeling, and grinding all the way to it becoming chocolate, of different purity percentage, all the way up to 100% purity. Oh, by the way, that white fleshy pulp called mucilage, normally discarded during fermentation process before roasting, can actually be fermented into an alcoholic beverage that was a popular drink during pre-Columbian America, and was used for ceremonial purposes by the Aztec and the Mayan. And apparently you can also make a vinegar out of it. And the peel husk from the roasting process, you can make a tea out of it. Isn't that amazing? Well, I'm getting a little carried away here. Anyways, the lab tour had been amazing, and it certainly had my expectations up. With all that out of the way, into the dining room, and here the show officially began. So here we have the first course. This is a bread made by cocoa leaves with some kind of berry butter. This is butter made with berry. This is made with corn. And this is a type of chip that was made with these two potatoes. And to pair it with this chip, there is a sauce that was made with this tree tomato. So these are the ingredients that was on display. And we have this drink that's infused with a passion fruit and agave. Let me take a sip of this one. It's very fruity with a little bit of a bitterness and a little bit of like the alcohol taste, probably from the agave. This is the cocoa leaves bread. Just look at the inside. It's recommended that we use this stone slab to place some of this butter on the surface. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was almost kind of creamy inside, and you can taste like the cocoa leaf flavor is so strong. It was some kind of paste inside. That's like the cocoa leaf flavor. And the butter was, oh my God, so flavorful, so fruity. Wow, so good. This is the cube made by a type of corn. It's like a cake, very soft, very starchy, and a little bit sweet. Oh, this one's very good. Lastly, we have this chip. It's made with this dehydrated potato. A little salty, almost like a snack. Upgraded version of the chips. Pair it with a little bit of a sauce here. Very interesting. I like this one too. So this is the second course. We have this chip that's made by some kind of grain and lamb with agave nectar and some flower petal. And this is the cream made by, chirimoya, right? It's a type of very creamy fruit, similar to guava, like an ice cream pop. And this is a salad. And the pairing that I have, it is made with chirimoya and coca. Oh my God, it was like creamy and a little minty and a little sweet. This one's very good. It's hard to describe. It's like a milk, but from the nature. Not from an animal, but like from the plant. And the way to eat it is that we got the chip here, and we combine everything together. Get a bit of this lamb. A little bit. Oh, it's so aromatic. You can like smell it just from here. A little bit here. All right. So look at this piece. It's like an art already. This one's almost like a raw patty, but sweet and a little creamy at the same time. The chip itself is made with greens. It has this natural earthy flavor. Very creamy, very sweet, like a super upgraded version of the salad. This is the third course. We have a pork belly here from the Andean region, and this is a native potato on the top with some garnish. This is kind of like salad made with tarwi. It is a type of legume that's local to here, and it's got avocado at the bottom and some ricotta at the top. This is the bread made by tarwi, so the same thing. For the pairing, we got this drink that's made with 3 ingredients. This 3 right here. This is like a tree bark, and this is some kind of herb. I think the name is Muyashka, Wampa, and Marayuka. It's slightly bitter. Like a very, it's got like a kick after it. So at first it's a little bitter, but after that you get the herbness from it. I was told that this thing traditionally has medicinal properties. So you can definitely feel that. Like at first it's a little bitter, but after a few seconds that the herbness kicks back. Wow, very interesting. And for the way to eat this one is that you got the bread, put it here, and you get some of the sauce. Ooh, that's the avocado. Look at it. On this plate, and we eat everything. Wow, it's very gummy. Oh, it's so good. You taste the porky flavor, a little bit of a potato, and all the spiced ingredients on top of it. This is avocado with tarwi. It was so refreshing, slightly sour. And lastly, that's the bread. It's almost like a muffin, like a cake. And it's got the seed on top that's the same as this one. Oh my god. Maximo, verissimo. It was so soft and sweet, fluffy, and a little bit creamy. It's so flavorful, so aromatic. So for this course, this is called the diversity of the corn. So as we can see here, we have some fresh cheese, locally produced cheese. And this is mote. It is Andean corn. And these are 3 types of different chips from 3 types of different corn. The color is completely natural. And here we have this husk just for decoration, but when we lift it up, you can see this puree of mote with a plant that gave it the color and some taste. And the way we eat it is that we mix this with the mote first, then we eat the chip, and lastly we eat the queso. Additionally, we have this beverage pairing that is chicha de jora, that is wine made from corn. And they add tuna extract, which is a cactus. That's why it gives its color. I'm gonna try this one. It was like chicha de jora itself, which tastes kind of like corn and a little honey, but with more of a fruity flavor from the cactus. A little bit like passion fruit with the chicha de jora. And the mix up, I'm gonna mix the sauce here. So we have some of the puree. Allow me just to use this spoon because I don't have additional ones. So let me use that to get some of the mote inside the dish. So I got this bowl of mixture. It was so flavorful. It was natural corn flavor, but it was so intense, so pure. It's just amazing. Here we have 3 types of chip. Let me just try a little bite of each one. This one tastes like actually tastes similar to a potato chip. Pretty light. A little different from this one, but also still pretty light. I think it's maybe the saltiness is a little different, but it's harder to describe it. And lastly, this one. This is more on the sweeter side of things. This is slightly sweeter. Lastly, we have this fresh cheese. Oh, look at this. Oh my god. That grill mark, you can taste the charcoal from it. And the cheese is very fresh. So this is the 5th course called Extreme Altitude. We have 2 plates here. This one is wheat with dog meat. And here we have dehydrated kale, some kuchura, which is like an algae that only grows on high altitude, the lake. Some black and white quinoa under it. And the way we eat it is that we mix everything here into the bowl and combine it. For the beverage pairing, we have the kuchuro. That's also the same algae here. It's actually pretty minty. And the algae was like a little bit like a bubble that kind of burst with some juice, not a lot. It's like a bubble gum texture that's gonna like break out once you bite on it. Let me combine some of these so you can see these are the same. Churro, kale, and oh, that's the quinoa. You see the black and white quinoa underneath. Look at this one here. This is black quinoa and the white quinoa. Combine this, a little bit of a kale and churro. Mix this bowl. So umami, so flavorful. The dark flavor is so intense. With those bits from the algae, it creates like a very complex texture. It's like a condensed dark stew with a bunch of vegetables and different bits of textures. This is the 6th course called Centro Andean. So we have something in here, but I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. First, we have this beverage pairing. It is made with a tuber and pulp from the cacao bean when you open up the cacao. Also with munya, which is a type of mint family. It's very fruity, slightly sour, and a little sweet, like the tuber flavor. It's like slightly sweet and sour, a little similar to passion fruit, but not exactly. And this is charcoal, like this edible clay, but we're not gonna eat that. You can see a bunch of Andean potatoes and tubers. This is what they eat during celebrations. And we also have this sauce made with some kind of local herbs. So what we do is that we pick this and we dip in the sauce and we eat it. So let me try this one first. This is the tuber. This tuber is extremely soft, almost like a starchy potato. And the sauce is interesting. It has a little bit of cilantro taste, a little bit of lime, like a little bit of acidity in it. Yeah, it's definitely like a vegetable, like a root. It kind of feels starchy, but you can definitely taste the fibers and stuff in it. Let me try another piece, maybe like the potato. Oh, it's rather hot. This is so flavorful. You can taste very, very strong potato flavor, but not from what I had before. This one tastes more raw, like younger, you know. Tuber, very interesting. I've never seen this one before. Very earthy. It's like a sweet potato, very starchy inside.
The experience continued to unfold, and so far I have spent almost 4 hours in this restaurant. I had another destination that I need to get to before sunset, but I still have 2 courses to go, so I had to speed up the process and have them together. The first one is frozen cordillera, made from white munya, aka Andean mint, tumbo, a passion fruit variety, and koye, a native plant grows on extreme altitude and its flower used for dyeing, as presented in this plate. The other one is watia of cacao, made with mashwat, a tuber, coca leaf, cacao, and mucilage. Both are in the form of desserts, with one last beverage pairing made with tea and cacao. I can't exactly recall what they tasted like, other than they tasted good. Thanks to my mic very cooperatively ran out of battery. I'll leave that to your imagination. And all of that was the entire experience at meal. This was beyond a meal. It was truly an unforgettable experience. It wasn't about being fancy and pushing the edge of modern cooking technique, but rather a deep exploration of tradition and ingredients. It really made me think about the food I put in my body. The flavor of these dishes had been rendered to their fullest thanks to the way they were grown and sourced. I particularly like the extraction and infusion of the beverage pairing. Every cup was of an ecosystem. Every sip was of a new experience. It was like a direct communication with the other side of nature I didn't know existed. I much appreciate the way meal treats the ingredients, the environment, and the traditional technique, to preserve them so we don't lose them. And for the people that brought us these ingredients and technique, the Incas and the other Indian people that came before it. They may no longer exist, but they talk to us through the food that was passed down by generations. A culture so distant from us, so distinct and yet fascinating in their own ways. There is still much to learn about their culture, but learning through experiencing is the first step. This is a meal worth the trip and leaves a mark in one's life's experience. This is Fufski, and I make videos about food, travel, and culture. This is a snippet of my South America travel series. If you like this video, and wanted to see more videos like this, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. If you are from Bilibili and have some coins, I'll gladly take your coins. Thanks for watching.